Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. We're going to have quite a show today, folks. There's all sorts of issues out there. My bucket list is getting full with issues that are of major concern here in the state of Oregon and elsewhere in these United States. But what we're going to do, we're going to focus probably on Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. We're going to try to educate you and inform you about some of the issues that are talking to this whole issue of abortion and whatever. But before we do that, I'd like to make a couple of little commentary kind of things. One of which, from a local standpoint, the Oregonian, as you know, is the largest newspaper here in the state of Oregon. A former Oregon publisher, Fred Stickle, dies. He just passed away, and Fred was quite a guy. And actually, besides that, he was a former Marine, and I knew Fred. He worked very, very hard. But anyway, he passed away, and we just wanted to make sure that we share our condolences to he and his family. Okay, we'll take a minute just to recognize Fred. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And to his family, and then his son, his son, I remember that when Fred left the Oregonian, his son took over the Oregonian, again, another Marine captain, Stickle, and he since has left it. Well, he's not left the Oregonian at this point in time, but we would like to send our condolences to his son and family, the rest of the family, the Stickles family, okay, with that. The other point I'm going to mention is that we want to also recognize the horrific shooting of the students there and here in the community college here in Oregon, and that was quite something. It was a very sad situation in that issue, and it's really sad. We're gonna give them a minute also too, recognizing their plight and also for their families' grief and the like here in the state of Oregon. We'll do that right now. Thank you very much. I guess another point I'd like to read, I'd read an article about the shooting and whatever, and in one of the articles in the Oregonian that they had printed was that it says, I guess from the government, the FBI had said that sort of warning military folks who were wearing paraphernalias and caps and things of that nature, signifying the fact that they'd served in the military, to be cautious about the fact that people may be targeted. And I mean, it's really come home now, you know what I mean? And I've been wearing my cover, my hat here, citing the fact that I served in Vietnam, and the whole rationale is that my outreach to other veterans that are out there because they need to get to the VA for their benefits and the like and whatever, and just recognizing the fact and the fact that they had served and the like. That's why I'm wearing. Now they're telling us that we shouldn't be wearing our cover, if you will, in a public
terrible.
It's really a sad situation. Well, I want you to know that for those of you who may be trying to target me, I've got mine on,
Good for you.
but don't miss, don't miss. Okay. So and that's why I say to my brothers and sisters, keep wearing your paraphernalia. It's very important.
It's America's
Because-
finest.
That's right. We've served this country, and I'm talking about all branches of services.
Mm-hmm.
We've all served, and it's really a sad note that they even made that point in the paper. I wish they had just not said anything about it, but they made that point. But I'm just making my point that I'm still outreaching out to those individuals who have served in foreign wars and still have not gotten their benefits from the VA. Please go out and go in. For those families who have veterans or in that particular position, take them out to the VA and make sure you sign them up because they deserve it. They've earned the right, if you will, for that service. Okay. Well, now let's go on with the program. I've got with me. I've got a couple of guests. One of the guests is not with us at this point in time, but he'll be here hopefully shortly. But I've got Janice Dysinger, and she's here. We're going to talk about Planned Parenthood, but she's also a member of the Right to Life.
Right.
Right to Life, and here, and more specifically in the Multnomah County area, right?
Right. I'm the past chairman of Multnomah Right to Life.
Multnomah Right to Life. That's okay. So we got Janice. Welcome, Janice.
Right. Glad to be here.
Fine.
Thank you for having me.
Fine. And you know, and I might add also too that I can remember when we started talking almost years back on the show when they were talking about women issues and whatever and abortion and things of that nature. I sort of like at that point said, well, look, I don't get pregnant, and so I would not deal with issues along that particular line. But boy, I tell you, after I've gotten involved in this whole issue of Planned Parenthood and the abortion, I've learned a lot. Mm-hmm. I've learned a lot. And that's one of the reasons why I'm spending the time here on my show, the Oregon Voter Digest, to educate you. And the reason being, the reason why I'm saying to you that it is a major issue is that too often they play the political game. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Planned Parenthood and its history and things of that nature. But what I'm finding is that anytime you mention the word Planned Parenthood, automatically, if you happen to be of the wrong party, or if not that, the Republican Party, then it becomes political, and then just sort of set it aside and suggest that this is just another attempt, if you will, by the Republican Party, if you will, to throw people under the bus and this, that, their liars, they're cheaters, and this, that, and the other. But folks, that's not the case. Trust me. From a historical standpoint, this is the party of Lincoln, and Lincoln had the Republican Party had a very rich history, if you will. They were the one that basically addressed the issue of race, if you want to put it that way, back in the early days. And as a result of that, Lincoln got shot. And some say it was by a Democrat, if you want to play the politics of this whole piece. But the fact of the matter is that let's get off this business about the brand, and let's talk about the issues. And here with Planned Parenthood, as I see it, on this whole issue of abortion, they are a major violator, from my understanding. This is my understanding. And I just got a little couple comments, and we're going to get in this piece because it's very important. What I've read to date in regards to the whole issue, now the federal government's involved in it, the Congress involved in it. They're doing the investigation. And as far as I'm concerned, they're a huge organization, if you will. They do have the ability, if you will, to do that investigation. So we're going to let them dig into this issue. But please, don't let this be a kind of a Republican-Democrat situation to get in the presidential election. No, let's get to the facts of it. If in fact if these young people, these people, if you will, are alive, if you're taking their lives away and not giving them the opportunity for life, that's a very serious problem. But besides that, the $500 million that they're given every year, $500 million to basically support this organization, Planned Parenthood, and that's that other issue, the women issues, the women health issues. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. The women health issues, we all support the women health issues. It's the abortion side of it, and then that definition of that abortion side that we are concerned with. And in fact, it goes beyond that. In fact, it's my understanding now there are many other organizations out there, businesses, if you will, that are basically a primary health care issue, women health care issue, but they're not getting funded by the federal government. We, the taxpayers, Okay, so I think another concern comes to mind. As far as I'm concerned, they should go out with, if in fact the federal government wants to get in there from the people's standpoint, want to get into women health issues, which I think is very fine. It should be a kind of a request for proposal. We, the people, should identify what are the issues of women, asking women what are their issues, and then come up with a request for proposal and put it out there for everybody, if you will, to look at. Not just give one organization, any one organization, the opportunity to just, quote, be the sole source, if you will. No, it should be a contract to all organizations for health issues, and the best, if you will. You got me? But that's another concern that I've learned since that. I mean, just giving one organization $500 million, no question whatsoever, just a sole source. That's not the way it works, especially when it comes to people's money. It's our money. It's our money, and we should make sure that our legislators, in fact, you need to ask those questions of your respective representative. Ask them about the fact that why is it that we're just giving one contractor the opportunity to quote, bid, if you will, on this whole issue of women issues. That's a major concern. But the abortion issues thing, as far as I'm concerned, the first thing that the President Obama should have done day one, when that became a concern, he should have immediately done an audit, checked that out, and find that out. But even during that interim aspect of it, it should have been cut off right off the bat. Or if not that, the first thing that should have been asked of Planned Parenthood should have been said, okay, fine, here, you will sign a document stating that, in fact, you're going to get out of the whole issue of abortion, the entire issue of abortion, right there, point blank. And from that point on, then, well, as you know what happened, probably I'm sure someone might have asked that question, but guess what? They said no. They figure they've got so much power, they can just keep it regardless. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's going to be the demise. That's going to be the issue. So I just want to throw that out there before, just to let you know that I'm back on guard now. I'm point person, and we're going to stay on this issue and subject until it's resolved. And I might add also too, I've been a proud member, in fact, a lifetime member of the NAACP, and been a member of the Urban League at one point in time. And I'm a little surprised that it's my understanding that they were in support, if you will, of Planned Parenthood. Well, then I'm asking both of those organizations to, if you will, ask them to get a letter, if you will, from Planned Parenthood talking to the whole issue of abortion and death and this, that, and the other. So that's a major, major issue because, as you know, many of those organizations, many of the places for these abortions are in black neighborhoods. I say black neighborhoods. I didn't say African American neighborhoods. I said black neighborhoods. In fact, we just happen to have one here in the Portland metropolitan area of all things on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, of all things. I mean, here's Dr. Martin Luther King. Under no circumstances would he be supporting anyone of that nature, talking about a Planned Parenthood on aborting, if you will, blacks. Well, anyway.
His niece, actually, Alveda King.
Yeah, she came here and whatever. So let's just get right up in there now. Why don't we just from a little history aspect of it, one, let's talk about your organization and why your focus and why you with this particular organization and and you on this main issue about Planned Parenthood. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
First, identify yourself.
I'm Janice Dysinger, and I'm the founder and former chairman of Multnomah Right to Life, which is a county chapter group of Oregon Right to Life. And our current chairman, Janice Bauer,
Mm-hmm.
and Barbara Tyma are currently heading up the organization, and they're doing a really good job with it, and I'm really proud of their leadership. We've done a number of things to try to bring the focus to life in our county. We're at the county fair, and right now we have a full display of a fetal development display that we bring every year to the Multnomah County Fair at Oaks Park. We've been there 3 years in a row, and we're getting a lot of positive input. People are really excited to see the development, the beauty of the child developing in the womb, because we all start off as one cell, and that's where we all came from, that one live cell with its unique DNA, and we develop just like we do throughout our life. But when we are anywhere after 22 weeks, 23 weeks, babies have started to be able to survive uh, we have developed enough to help them survive past that point on up to full term, and of course that normal time they're delivered at. But we keep developing throughout our life, not clear till we're ready to go, until we die. So we all progress and change, and it's just a part of development. So for people to say a child is not a child until it's leaving the hospital, as some propose, is ridiculous, because it had to come from somewhere, and it was always alive. It's a child. It's not just a blob of tissue. If you, let's see, Nova does a wonderful video on the development of a child. If you watch that, you can just really see the humanity of the child. And as we have in our display that we bring to the fair, and if anybody wants to take it to their church for the Sanctity of Life Sunday, we'd be glad to work with them. It's a very expensive, beautiful display, and we'd be glad to share it with any church group that would like to, or any other group that would like to show it to their members. We're very happy to bring that.
Tell me, Janice, when did the organization get a concern, if you will, about the whole issue of life?
Well, that's been
approximately from a historical standpoint. How long has this organization been?
Well, Oregon Right to Life has been there as long as I've been in this state.
Is that right?
So,
okay.
we also have Oregon Right to Life has several sub companies. So they have standupgirl.com, which is the most active website on the internet for people.
Standupgirl.com.
Standupgirl.com.
Okay, so if they Google that, they can they'll get there.
So that has answers for women who are just finding out they're pregnant. Resources. Where do I go? What do I do? I need help.
So service to the women.
Okay. Then they have their PAC, and then they have their educational foundation. All different parts of it. They have Camp Caleb and Camp Joshua, which are educational camps that specifically train people who want to really learn about the issue. Caleb is for the older people, and Joshua is for the younger folks, and they really get in and study in depth.
Are they getting any federal monies?
No, this is all privately funded. And they are on Twitter, they produce videos, they have a Facebook page, and all kinds of social media that they use. So they're quite quite a wonderful company and organization, and I've really appreciated their support in our local area.
Okay, now let's get in on the Planned Parenthood situation. One, when did you get involved? When did that come on the table from your
Well,
standpoint?
recently that we've known for some time of what they have 11 clinics here in Oregon.
11 clinics in the state of Oregon.
Right. So we know that they're doing the majority of the abortions around the state. They're very well equipped to accomplish abortion. That's their main focus. And I think with the last statistic I heard, that of their revenues, 86% of what they got their money from was from abortion.
That's a kind of an interesting point. Now I know you can Google Planned Parenthood, and they go back some time. Can you talk a little bit about that history? And I think the founder, I guess.
Yes, Margaret Dysinger.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Let's talk a little bit about the history, and then we'll get back to the current day.
She has a terrible history.
Was it Margaret
Sanger?
Sanger. Okay.
Yeah, she wanted to get rid of human weeds.
Human weeds.
Yes, that was what she called people of color. It was her
people
goal.
of color, black folks. Back in those days, they were called color, but now.
And she also thought people that weren't very smart should be aborted.
That could be whites and anybody for that matter.
Yeah, but the human weed, she just wanted to rid the society of it. And
that statement was made.
You can, if you just Google Margaret Sanger, you're going to find
Margaret Sanger, who's a founder of Planned Parenthood.
Sanger.
Margaret Sanger, S-A-N-G-E-R, of Planned Parenthood, right?
The founder, yeah.
Founder, okay. And that statement is there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I read that too. I just want to make sure that the viewing public understands.
It's unbelievable.
You need to do that. I think that should be a first, if you will.
And we see today that Planned Parenthood still targets areas for people that are in minorities. And in fact,
what about Hispanics?
I'm not sure exactly what the exact races, the number of abortions are for Hispanic, but I know that I had on Guttmacher, it was Guttmacher that I had this from. This is a Life News article, but
Okay.
it talks about that the African American population is 13%.
13%.
But 1/3 of the abortions are done on black women.
1/3 of all Planned Parenthood
Mm-hmm.
abortions are done on black women.
I
Wow.
believe that's right.
African American women.
Make sure
Wow.
it's not
Well, when I asked you the question about Mexicans
yeah.
or Mexican
1/3.
Americans here within these United States, because there's a major concerns with them because they're a Catholic primarily. They're a Catholic, and the Catholic religion tends to or oppose, if you will, of abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't hear a great deal about Mexican Americans, women, going through the abortion process. Am
I don't
right?
know the statistics
I don't
on
know.
that.
But you say a third though. But you're telling me a third.
Right.
of
I knew you
black
were
women.
concerned about that,
Yeah,
so
very
I
much
looked that
so.
up, and
Wow.
yeah. So I'll give that to you.
And that's
You can-
that's by Planned Parenthood. Okay.
That's a recent article from
Okay.
Life News.
And then while we're talking about that piece, let's talk about something here locally in the Portland metropolitan area, because it has been said that the majority, if you will, a large portion of African Americans reside here in the Portland metropolitan area, primarily northeast Portland aspect of it. And Martin Luther King is a street that goes north and south, and Planned Parenthood is there.
Yeah.
Is located there at that facility there. I'm a little familiar with some of the history of the facility before it was built, because I remember doing a show here, and we opposed that. And we tried to get Planned Parenthood to build it, maybe either going east or west, but not on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Right.
But
Alveda came for that. She protested it before it
But
started.
unfortunately, some of the African American leaders were asked to sign off by Planned Parenthood, to allow the Planned Parenthood folks to build that facility right there on that facility.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is that we give money to Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm. The voters.
Yeah.
Remember that.
The politicians vote to give Planned Parenthood
Mm-hmm.
this money, where they've just funded it again in Congress. Then Planned Parenthood has enough money that they're making a profit off of what they are already doing. They've got money left over at the end of the year. They have enough money to have big parties. We saw that in the congressional testimonies, big, expensive parties, millions spent on travel expenses. And yet they give money to their PAC, which funds all kinds of people in office.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so then those people in office vote to give Planned Parenthood this money again, and it's a vicious cycle. And it uses our money to bring that support for Planned Parenthood politically. I don't believe they have the support of the people. I think at the last poll I saw, that was 56% of the people were pro-life and didn't agree with abortion, and I think it was 78% of the people didn't want to give money to a company that was going to sell baby parts.
Wow. But but for some, again, like I said, we're right in this political process, and as if to say, when I think it's sort of like saying the Republican brand brought up the issue about this abortion aspect of it, and then naturally it shifted to the Democratic side, and then immediately they jumped on it from the standpoint of saying, no, we are for, if you will, this issue. And then it was kind of like we saw those videos. Remember those videos we saw, and this and that, and it was as if it was just almost like another slave day. Just killing off babies, if you will, or selling off back in the early days, if you will, when they were just selling off blacks during those days, those early days. It really just brought tears to my eyes during that particular time.
Right. Well, the proposal to take away the funding to Planned Parenthood was to give the money to other organizations that were in local community clinics that would support
Right.
all of the
Right.
needs of
Right.
the women.
Why
And
can't
not
they get across?
a company that's main focus is
Exactly.
abortion.
Why is that so hard to get across?
It beats me. I mean, fund a company that's going to meet all of your needs that you have as a woman, or one that just wants to focus on giving you abortion, and fund candidates. Which one do you want to have the government give your money to? I mean, if you're pro-life, do you want your money being spent to end abortion? And especially lately, we've seen from these videos from the Center for Medical Progress. If you want to see what's all of that's gone on with that expose, and it's not being covered by the mainstream media, go to the Center for Medical Progress, and you can get a link there, and you can see all of what they've found. And they have a lot of information about how Planned Parenthood, they document how Planned Parenthood agrees to change their procedure for doing the abortion so they can get a baby's parts more sellable. They make a profit off of that. And then the third thing was that they don't always get an informed consent. So they can do, the woman doesn't know what's happening with her baby. They tell her that they're going to incinerate it, but they don't know for sure that what happens to it. I mean, they don't see what happens. So one of the documentaries they had showed, with Holly, showed that one of the clinic workers just took the samples of blood and fetal tissue. They took it without consent. So consenting wasn't always obtained for these babies. And as this, if I may just jump ahead,
sure, go on. No problem.
When we were, I helped as a volunteer with 40 Days for Life, which is it's an international organization that's going to abortion centers, and whoever shows up to be part of that, and you have to agree to be peaceful. You go and you just pray for the end to abortion, and we do that for 40 days, and it's being done right now there's 2 abortion clinics, the Lovejoy Surgery Center here in Multnomah County, and then down in Clackamas we have another clinic down in Milwaukee that they're doing the 40 days for. So people just go and pray for an end to abortion outside the clinic. And while we were there at the Lovejoy Surgery Center, and it is not a Planned Parenthood, the one in Milwaukee is Planned Parenthood, but the one at Lovejoy is not Planned Parenthood. It's an independent company, but it's been in Oregon a long time. And the Center for Medical Progress, one of their videos, I believe it's number 9, and at the 4-minute 35-second mark on that video, they mentioned that Oregon is one of the organizations that Advanced Bioscience Resources gets fetal tissue from, and they explain a lot about the fetal tissue procurement process. So when we were up at the 40 Days for Life about a week ago, a woman came out, and we didn't know who she was, and she handed us an envelope, and inside that envelope was this information, and it says that Lovejoy Surgery Center partners with Advanced Bioscience Resources Incorporated and for tissue procurement. And so they were telling this woman who was there for a late-term abortion if she would donate her baby to Advanced Bioscience Resources, that her name would not be used, it would not be in any way connected with the donation, and no one could identify her or the baby. And it sounds really like she's being, if you read this material, it sounds like you're really being generous to give this tissue to science. But the babies that are born, the babies that are aborted, there's a real problem with with accomplishing an abortion and to get fetal tissue, because the abortion law says the baby has to be dead before it's born, or it's a live birth and it should be given proper care. But the research companies don't want any infanicides used on that baby because it'll be tainted, it'll be not fresh tissue, and they want fresh tissues for their research. And so in order to get fresh tissue, the baby has to either be born alive and its organs harvested, or it has to be dismembered inside the mother before it comes out, for them to get the best tissue and make the most money from it. So there you have the problem, and for us to know what's going on in these abortion clinics, it's impossible in Oregon without an investigation.
Wow.
Because they are the least regulated organization. They're self-regulated in Oregon.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to have you come back on here again. So what we'll do is that we'll go on and take a break here, and we will get you to come back this next time around. Can we do this?
Sure. Thank
Okay,
you for
fine.
having me on.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. This is Bruce Broussard, the Oregon Voters Digest. I'll see you next time.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Welcome again to this segment again of Bruce Broussard, Oregon Voters Digest. My guest again, sort of a follow-up with Janice Dysinger, and we've been talking about Dysinger. We've been talking about Planned Parenthood. Hope you caught that first half of the show, and if not, just check us out on YouTube, if you will. But this time around, we're going to just go on further, have the conversation with Janice. Janice, welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Appreciate that. Good. Well, you know, where we left off, we were still talking about some of the issues that were relevant to the whole history of abortion as it relates to Planned Parenthood and this country for them. It was just not just Planned Parenthood, but specifically Planned Parenthood, because they're giving government funding. They're getting our money, the voting money, the $500 million a year aspect of it. And I'm gonna throw something else out to you, which is, I mean, I realize the brand has always come in from the standpoint of Republicans. We're the ones that basically we're supporting them, but we're not. The brand is not supporting, if you will, not wanting to support Planned Parenthood, because that's where the issue is politically today. Okay, and the other side.
If you look at the two parties,
Yes.
They have a platform, a state platform,
right.
and you see the differences right in their platform.
Right, exactly. But then, you know, thinking about that whole issue about the $500 million that's being given to Planned Parenthood by us, if you will, there's another entity that we are very supportive of. It just happened to have been a major ally of ours. It's called Israel.
Yes.
And we're giving them $3 billion a year. And it's my understanding that their abortion policy and program is worse than the Planned Parenthood in terms of how far a pregnancy can go before the person is aborted, and that's another question. You know what I'm saying? It's worse. I mean, I'd heard something about a week or 2 weeks or something before they can still perform an abortion.
Well,
are you familiar with that?
The abortion laws in Oregon are the most relaxed in the
That's
country.
more relaxed in the country. You know anything about Israel at all?
I don't know.
But I'd heard about that some way, shape. But if you get back to me if you can along that end. But understand. But we're giving them something like $3 to $5
I know
billion.
Planned Parenthood gives money out to other countries.
All over countries. But my point is that they're aborting these kids, these babies too. And my point is that who's getting these babies? You know, for you know, you never know, because they're selling them all over the place. But that's a question that I'm going to be asking.
A lot of times the money goes for the abortions here, like the ones that were done at Lovejoy. That tissue is taken, and I saw last week on lifenews.com that it's one of the places that Advanced Bioscience Resources was selling theirs was to Michigan University.
Okay.
So
Okay,
a lot of
okay.
the universities, and we're also giving money to the universities to do research.
That too.
So they're getting our money in the back door there
got you.
for these abortions, because
Well,
they're
I
paying
think-
advanced bioscience resources.
In all
for
due
those
respect,
babies.
this really needs to be looked at, and it is being looked at because of the presidential race. I mean, it's got more of a force because a lot of those folks, even on our side, if you will, were supporting, if you will, Planned Parenthood. It'd be interesting to see the list of donors to these various elected officials. And again, like I said, I've got a question. I mean, that was something that I read. I'd probably do a little bit further research, but for those of you out there, you might want to ask your local congressman or senator as to the abortion issue with Israel. If in fact they're doing that, then that $3 billion, I mean, we are in a position to say, hey, no, you can't do that anymore. I think any monies that are being given out to abort a child should
Planned
be
Parenthood
sent.
has a foreign aid policy.
They have foreign aid. Interesting. Okay, let's go back now. Let's see where we were now. Can we focus a little bit on the Martin Luther King Jr. Facility, Planned Parenthood?
I don't know if I know specifically about theirs, but I'll answer whatever question I can that you ask me.
I do know that you guys gave me the opportunity to actually get involved, if you will. There was a demonstration about it was about 2 months ago. I'd say about 2 months ago.
End of August, I think.
At the end of August, they were at this facility on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in the Portland metropolitan area.
It was because of all the videos that had come out because of the Center for Medical
right
Progress.
after that. And it was kind of interesting. I'll just kind of just share with you briefly. I had on my cap, and actually I'm a small business person, and I had my T-shirt identifying myself, and then I basically went up to the door and asked and then I said, I'm a voter, and my name is Bruce Broussard, and I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Can I come in and get a brochure in terms of how you do business here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And the woman approached the door. One would not let me in the door and call me an idiot. Said I was an idiot, and that I couldn't. And I said, well, look, I'm a tax-paying person, and so consequently, this is part of my facility, and so I have the right. And she said, and it's nonprofit. She said, no, as far as I'm concerned, you're an idiot, and get out of here. I'm getting ready to call Portland police. And naturally, I said, well, bring them on. No problem, because I was going to give them the same story. But I was there. The other thing I noticed, there was about 200 people there. And again, that is an area where you've got a dominancy, if you will, of African-American women that have gone in that facility and used that service. The aborted aspect of it.
Many women feel they don't have much choice.
They don't have much choice.
They don't have support from their spouse or.
It's really a sad situation that happened. But again, like I said, it's right there on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, where the majority of African Americans reside here in the state of Oregon. Okay, and that facility they are aborting these black kids, if you will, out of these African American women. And I thought that was a kind of interesting piece. But the other thing that I noticed in terms of how political it is, and because people don't have knowledge, that's why we're doing this show, and we're trying to be as open as we possibly can to educate the public so they can ask the question. I'm challenging them. Go and knock on the door and ask them, well, what's your procedures here? I mean, do you abort kids or don't you abort kids? Can I see the books? Because you have a right? You know what I'm saying?
Well, they put out a report every year. So I'm not sure how often, but it's been yearly as far as I know. One of the organizations think is really good for information is the Guttmacher Institute. They have all kinds of information.
Now, where do you get this? Because a lot of times you don't get this free information. You know what
well,
I'm saying?
this is on the internet. I just printed these off today. This is the Guttmacher Institute, and it's current as of October 1st.
Okay, so do they have Oregon in there?
They have, yes. I've got one here that has all the state laws and all the regulations on abortion. And if you look at this, you can see plainly that Oregon, there's just no regulations for us.
No regulations. And what are these regulations? Why don't you just read those off? What are regulations like what?
Must be an abortion must be performed by a licensed physician. It's not required in Oregon.
Not required. So I mean anybody, a nurse or whatever,
right?
Or a non-nurse,
so,
right?
So
anybody
can perform an abortion in Oregon on a full-term pregnancy.
Wow. Okay, go on.
Must be performed at a hospital if it No, it's not required that you do an abortion at a
So
hospital.
they don't have to go to the local Emmanuel Hospital or anything of that nature.
Right.
They can just do it right there at that facility.
This one would be a second physician must participate if it viability. So, but we don't have that regulation here.
Wow. What's the other one?
It's prohibited in case of except for the cases of life or health endangerment of the mother. That's not here.
Wait a minute. I mean, let's go back now. So the idea of rape and things of that nature, they don't have to
No,
worry about
that's
that?
for if the mother's life was in danger.
If the mother's life is in danger.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That would it would be prohibited. Of course, we don't have that here. Partial birth abortion is banned. It's banned federally, but it's also states.
Now, what does that mean? What does that mean?
So that partial birth abortion is the baby is delivered everything except for its head, so it's born breech, and then they insert a instrument into the back of the head and take the brain out, so the
Wow.
baby's born dead.
Wow. But those videos said basically that wasn't the case. They were taking them out too.
Well,
With the head, the full fetus.
in some of those it did, but they. You really should watch those videos.
Those
from the
videos are
center.
awesome. They're awesome. Okay.
Well, they're
and you
very.
can get those on YouTube too, right? On
Yeah,
YouTube.
you can go to the Center for Medical Progress.
Center for Medical Progress, right?
Yeah,
You can
they're
Google
very
it.
difficult to watch.
Okay, I know.
Because
I
it's
know.
it's.
But they need to
terrible.
know. No,
They
we need to know.
know.
We need to know. That's why we're talking about this. It's very horrific.
And then we have public funding of abortion. Yes, we have that in Oregon.
We have public funding. So is the state of Oregon, the city of Portland, any of those funding, is it coming out? Now, Multnomah County is normally the services, if you will, for social services. Are they getting any monies from any of these that you know of, from any of these entities?
I don't know what the numbers are.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, for those of you out there who may have access to Multnomah County or the city of Portland or the state, and you know your representative, you can even give them a call and ask them whether or not they are funding in any way, shape, or form Planned Parenthood here within our state, for Planned Parenthood on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Okay. Okay. Good on. What else? Was there anything else?
Those were the main things I was
Those are
going
the
to say.
main-
You don't have to be without requiring a doctor or a medical professional to perform this procedure. How are you providing for the safety of the mother, let alone the child? But the mother is at risk because I was talking to Therese, who organizes the 40 Days for Life, and she's seen at three different times. She's been there. She's seen ambulances come to the back of the clinic and take someone out.
Wow.
So when they just say, well, we have to have abortion because it's safe, it's really not that safe a procedure.
Well, who's responsible, if you will, for certifying these various entities?
Right.
Like the hospitals and things of that nature.
Right, so we don't know.
Is it processed?
They're self-regulated.
They're all self-regulated. So you don't have to worry about answering anything. Well, you know,
I would tell you, one time I was over at the Borg abortion facility back in the 90s, and I was protesting there at that time, and I was just observing from the sidewalk and trying to just pray for people to not choose that abortion. And there was a little girl that I saw go into the clinic, and I don't think she was even 10. She didn't look like she was even developed.
Where was this at? Where was this at?
It's in Hillsborough.
Hillsborough.
That clinic has been closed since then. And I saw this little
Was she
girl.
white or black?
She was white.
Okay.
And when she came out, she was really pale white.
Wow.
The woman taking her out put her into the back of her little Ford Fiesta and covered her with all these blankets. The clinic worker looked scared to death. A guardian of the girl looked scared to death, and they just flew off.
Wow.
It was really, really upsetting to see, because the little girl, her organs are just not all that developed, and then you've got, at that time they were doing it without the benefit of a ultrasound, and so they just go in there and start grabbing stuff blindly, and you can end up taking the insides out of that little girl. And Carol Everett, who was abortion manager of a clinic, she became pro-life. There are a lot of pro-life people that have become advocates for life that were in the abortion industry, and she said that 1 in 500 people becomes permanently damaged from an abortion.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Even
so,
from a mindset aspect
Right.
of it. You know, after years, maybe you might say, well, gee whiz, I'd like to have a child. And you know, so what do you do? I mean,
so there's people that have been hurt, their reproductive ability has diminished because of the abortions. The other thing I wanted to say, there is a wonderful woman who is Abby Johnson, who was a former Planned Parenthood manager, and she has started up a group to reach out to abortion workers, because nobody ever grows up wanting to work in an abortion clinic. But she thought she was helping women, so she started working there, became Planned Parenthood Employee of the Year. And
Here locally?
No, down in College Station, Texas. And she's written a book called Unplanned. It's about her
You
experience.
tweet that up at one of the local.
Yeah, you can get that on Amazon, Unplanned. But she has started a ministry at abortionworker.com, and she has a couple of websites. But she helps and reaches out to people and that work in abortion industry, and she helps them to get into a new line of work if they want to leave, because once you've worked at an abortion clinic, it's real hard to get a job someplace else. You have kind of people see that on your resume and they don't like it, so it's hard to get a job somewhere else. So she helps them. She has a whole cadre of different organizations and helps and gives them a month's salary. She's helped doctors get out of the abortion industry, and she's gives them legal help, because Planned Parenthood will often come back after the worker. They actually sued her for like, it was in the millions of dollars. I think $5 million they sued her to try to keep her quiet. So a lot of, she offers all of these workers real help to get out of the industry. Because they feel sometimes very trapped.
Is she still in business?
Yes, she is. Abby Johnson.
Abby Johnson. And what was the name of that book again?
Unplanned.
Unplanned. Just
Yes.
Unplanned. Abby Johnson. Okay, good. Tell me something. I want to go this way with a bit since you brought that issue up. Are you familiar with Roe versus Wade?
A little bit.
You smile.
Well, it's
Now,
what
tell me
started
this.
all this. I mean, it's,
Let's talk about that. You know, like I said, I did a little research on that. In fact, I even asked my wife about that piece, and said all of a sudden it was just like an open door. You know, all of a sudden, because initially they had the pregnancy pill, and there wasn't that many, if you will, abortion and whatever. You almost had to have money, if you will, to get abortion. If there was a little problem within a family, if they had money, you know, doctors would do that along that line. But if you didn't have money, guess what? You just didn't entertain sex in that kind of a way. You'd use the pill, or you'd use the other paraphernalias, if you will, to prevent the pregnancy. But they said that when Roe versus Wade was passed by the Supreme Court, it looked like the floodgates were open. All of a sudden, that's when the abortion business folks really got into the play. Fair or not?
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about
I've
it.
heard
Talk-
some women use abortion for their birth control method, and have had numbers of pregnancies that have ended in abortion, 8 or more.
Wow.
And that is really one of the things that they don't tell you at Planned Parenthood, what that sets you up for health consequences. I mean, you may end up with you can't bear children overall later in your life when you want to. But another thing that abortion does is when a woman's early pregnant, she starts to develop a lot of extra cells in her breast tissue, and they're stage 1 and stage 2. And so those are immature cells. And that if she has a family history of cancer, any trigger that comes along in her life, if she's exposed to some harsh events that would trigger a cell to become cancerous, she has more targets in her breast cells. If a woman goes ahead and has a full-term pregnancy, I think after 7 months, her breast tissue becomes a stage 3 to stage 4, which is resistant to breast cancer. So having so many pregnancies ending in abortion, this woman is set her own risk up. Her health is at risk because of breast cancer she wouldn't have been exposed to if she had had one of her babies, at least one of them, go to full term, or at least to 7 or 8 months, and she could have ended up resistant to breast cancer. So that's just one of the consequences of
And those facts are
abortion.
there to be seen, huh?
Yeah, some people deny that. They say, oh, well, we've got this research study that shows that isn't true. But if you look at their research study, it only went on for 5 years, whereas the ones that show the breast cancer connection have gone on for 20 years. And so then it has time in your life. But it's just a physiological science that if you mature a cell, it isn't going to be developing off into some cancerous.
Wow. Well, then,
tissue.
going back to that Roe versus Wade situation, is there any stats anywhere that shows the number of pregnancies just prior to passing the Supreme Court passing that law?
There probably are, and
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
I can't remember
I mean, it
all
would be
of that.
interesting to see how did it spike from that point on. Like, what was the numbers during that particular time? And I think through the ages, if you will, if
Well,
you didn't have any money,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Abortion went up steadily for quite a while, and then over the last, I think about 15 years, it's been going down.
Abortions are going down now.
Right, but
What was that? What was the reasoning for that?
well, women are becoming pro-life.
They're getting pro-life. Okay, well, let's talk about that. How that because of these facilities.
Well, we
and
see
your
the
efforts and-
development of a child in
Right.
the womb now. We've got your 3D and your 4D ultrasounds. We see that little baby in there. It's not a clump of tissue. We can see that. There's a organization called Fetal Photo down on Powell, and they don't
Here
work
in Portland.
here
on
in
Powell.
Portland. So if you just want to see your baby,
Fetal photo
spelled
Okay.
with F's and
with F's and
fetal photo is the photo is FOTO. Fetal
okay,
photo.
okay.
And they have ultrasound machines there. You can go there and without a doctor's written.
Is there a cost for that? Or
Yeah, it costs, but some people just want to have a
just have an idea what
not medical surroundings, but a
Right.
kind of a
private kind of.
yeah, and they've got candles around, and it's just the family can be there and they can see the baby on a great big screen. So it's not just like on the little black and white screen a lot of women are used to seeing when they go in to see their doctor. So it's kind of an experience to see this and introduce yourself to this little.
So as a result of going through that, looking at the situation,
Well, yeah, we
they
see the
change their
baby.
mind, and all of a sudden they going on to have
Well, I
the
think
child.
the pregnancy resource centers, which will help women that are facing a pregnancy, there's a number of them in the area. There's 6 just in the Portland area. So they will help a woman, but they found that 90% of the women that saw their baby on ultrasound would choose life for that baby. Because we see they're our baby. You know, they just bond.
As we're talking about this thing, all due respect, I'm glad we're doing this because I said I sort of like was sort of getting into it when Bill Deals, who was working for Portland Public Schools, and Planned Parenthood was going into the classroom. In fact, they're probably still there now. That's another issue we're going to talk about.
He's really faced a lot, I know.
But the idea is that I kind of like, just stayed on the sideline, because I figured, well, gee, men don't get pregnant, so I should be involved.
I've
But
seen
guess
so
what?
many dads drag their daughters into the abortion centers.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I've also prayed with men outside that were crying because their other partner was going into the
Wow.
clinic. So it goes both ways.
But when you start talking about these photos or whatever, men should go.
Oh yeah, this is
Men should
it
go.
is a
I mean,
wonderful
men
experience.
should go and look at that. In fact, maybe there's a possibility we might be able to do something here at the Oregon Voters Digest and share. Can we set something up that way?
With the fetal
with the
photo?
photo, yes.
Oh, I can
Why
ask
don't you
them.
see if you can look at something like that? We're not necessarily promoting them, so to speak, but we can maybe just at least give us an
Well,
opportunity
you
to show.
see the humanity, and I think that's the
Yes,
change
that's
that's
the key.
happened.
Yeah, that's the key.
Is people are seeing the humanity of the child, and that especially is true of the people
Yes,
under 30.
yes.
The under 30 crowd is so pro-life.
Wow, wow.
It's the most pro-life generation ever.
Wow.
Because a third of I don't remember this. I shouldn't say that's exactly. It's more than a fourth anyway of their generation is missing.
Wow.
I've heard some statistics say a third of their generation, and they know it. They know that those people are gone, and we see that the congressional testimony this last week had Gianna Jensen and Melissa Oden also testified at the Congressional Center. You can see that on C-SPAN as well. They were people that survived abortions. And actually on our program, Multnomah Right to Life has a cable access program as well in Gresham.
Okay.
And this week our program is on survivors of abortion.
Really?
And there's Melissa said there were over 40,000 abortion survivors, babies that have survived abortion procedures.
How do we access that show? What's your show? I mean, how do we get it? It's on cable?
Yes.
It's on cable.
Yeah, and
What's your show date? You had that out for a moment.
I did.
Yeah, why don't you see if you can find that for us
Okay.
while we're going through this situation. I think this is very, very important. I really appreciate you being here with us, talking to us about this situation, because we just need to know what's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? And that's really where we're coming from. What is right and what's wrong? I mean, if in fact this country, this USA, is going to go along with aborting a child, a life, if you will, we need to know.
Yes.
And if that's what they need to do, then okay, fine, let's talk about it. But
Right.
if that's not the case, we need to know that too.
Right.
Very
And
important.
you know, the babies, they're finding that their pain receptors are heightened. So at the time when most abortions are being done right now, the baby is the most sensitive to pain, because they're not refined enough. They just pick it all up, and they're running away. You can see in the ultrasound they're running away from those abortion instruments, and it's we see that little baby being torn limb from limb, so that these people can make money off of their
Very much
parts.
so. Well, again,
It's
I'm
horrific.
really concerned about the whole issue of one of the major reasoning and rationale with the Planned Parenthood as it relates to African Americans or Black Americans. I mean, if it's a tenth of their business to abort
And it's a
African American, a third of their business is to abort African American babies. That's something else. And because some of the major concerns with the African American community is the lack of males. You know, the black male, if you will, and the lack of blacks, for that matter, being able to be a part of. I mean, a lot of them naturally are incarcerated, but then the others are being, as we're talking about this, I see them all being aborted. So we're losing the numbers big time. But it's really a sad thing. A life
Right.
is a life is a life. You got me?
Yeah. Well, I told you about Ray Baumberger. The audience doesn't know him, but he was born from a mother who.
We got about 20 seconds. Keep going real quick.
Okay. Well, anyway, if you can look up Ray Baumberger, with the Radiance Foundation, his story is amazing.
Okay. And what's your program? What's the name of the program?
Is Facing Life Head On.
Facing Life Head On. And
Right.
what's your next show on?
On October 12th, it'll be on channel 21 and 32. And October 17th, it'll be on channel 22 and 33.
Okay, Janice, thank you very much. It's
Great
been a
to see
pleasure.
you.
Okay,
Thanks so
fine.
much.
Thank you all for joining us. And right up front, Google Planned Parenthood and get a little bit more background. Very important. And we'll be doing something very shortly again. Take care. Have a good day. Enjoy your day.